What up, Muggles? This is Firebyrd, and I'm here with Ridgeback.
Hello.
And you're listening to the Dusty Cauldron, where we talk about all things Harry Potter and the witchy world at large. We are back at it with an Ickle Firsties episode, and we are going to dive into Book 6, The Half-Blood Prince, today. So Ridgeback is going to give us some predictions about what he thinks he will see in the book, either that might be different than in the movies, or exists and we didn't see it in the movie, whatever that might be. So he's going to give us 3 predictions, and then we are going to send him off to read, and then there'll be a little space magic, and we'll come back, and in the same episode you'll get to hear how he feels about those predictions. So let's start with what your first one was.
Okay, well, let's see here. My first one is one that's kind of a thorn in my side a little bit about it, but it's like I feel like the author is going to continue to avoid the trauma the characters are suffering. And where I'm going with that is like these kids tend to do do and
You're such a child.
I know. Like, and we talk in book 5, it's kind of, I don't know if we talked directly about it, but like their trauma is being relatively ignored. Mm-hmm. What they're going through is relatively ignored. It feels like it's for the very good of the, so it's for the greater good, that we'll deal with it at the end. We'll clean it all up at the end of everything, because
we'll fix it in post.
No, none of that works, and no, you can't fix it in post. Don't believe your friends. I feel like they're just going to be calling on Harry to suffer more, and he's going to continue to be near breaking until he finally dies when he dies.
Do you think there would be anyone else that we're really seeing suffer a lot?
I can't see how we can't see multiple people suffer a lot. Everything that happens to Harry affects everybody else. Just from the basic status that he is the main character. So when he's affected, everyone else is affected. Hermione's affected. Ron's affected. Maybe Dumbledore's affected. Maybe to some extent deep down he's affected. We know that Hagrid will be affected in some way. And probably members of his house that we aren't discussing that don't pop up all the time will be affected in some way too. We know the Dursleys won't. I think they'll be good. I think they'll be fine.
Oh, no, that was last book.
Yeah, I think they'll be fine because they'll be doing their thing. But no, I think that trauma just, watching someone go through that trauma spreads the trauma in some sort of way. It's the waves of the rock hitting the water. Everyone else feels those waves. Not exactly the initial blast, but they feel the repercussions of it in a sense. So I think it's all going to hurt, and they're all going to be suffering, and it's going to be constantly ignored for, they're suffering, but we have to focus on this big thing that's coming. So we'll take care of it at the end.
I look forward to talking about this one with you. I think it's going to be really nuanced.
It'll probably
interesting.
Blow up in my face a little bit, and I don't mean that in a negative way. It'll be less corked bat type of thing than it'll be less a corked bat than my other ones have been. Where it's like
that's fair.
I feel like it's more of a really thinking about it and be like, this is happening, and I think it's going to get worse, and I think it's going to spread out.
Yeah. I think it will be interesting because I think we're both aware, right, that this prediction is going to be correct. But with what I understand to be how you're thinking about it and what I know you're going to read, I think we're going to have a different conversation when you come back about, like, who all's trauma we're talking about. And so I'm really excited to have that conversation.
I'll actually have to write notes.
Yeah. Okay, tell me prediction number 2.
Well, what I wrote down was Neville will become a bigger fixture of the group because Harry learns of their connections. My hope is actually that it gives Harry and Neville a shared trauma. Something they can bond through is the fact that it could have been either one of them, really. And at one point, Harry, I think, asked in book 5, well, how do we know it wasn't Neville? Or, and they said, no, it's you. But, I mean, Neville went through that same stuff. Neville is still going through that stuff because if I remember right, his parents are still alive. Mm-hmm. They're blitzed out of their minds from magic. and they're never coming back from that. So that's what he has left. Where Harry has this memory that everybody is building up for him, and he can think about it, and then it kind of gets destroyed in book 5 because, James was an asshole. And he has these two figures he sees across the table who can't acknowledge him, can't see him, don't know him from the orderlies. And that's his mom and dad. And then he's got that grandma that's Umbridge Jr.
Who would fit in really well with the Dursleys.
Would fit really well with the Dursleys. But yeah, I think he'll become more important and become a bigger part of what they're doing. Because in the films, we don't see... he's still kind of backgroundish until the movies representing the 7th book. And I feel like he'll become a little more prominent because he'll become a bigger part of the group because he has such a shared... He's got such a shared history with him than Harry realizes. And I hope that's what's going to happen, is Neville kind of comes out of the shadows a little bit.
I think that would be fun to talk about after this book.
I hope it is. I mean, I really hope it is. Neville really stood up in the 5th book. I remember there was one point he stood up to somebody, and I can't remember what it was. Gotta write notes. I gotta not have ADHD either.
That would help.
That would help. I remember him standing up to somebody, and I was like, "Whoa, look at you in the big boy pants!"
But that's been Neville since year 1.
Yeah, but year
Neville
1,
got points for,
he stood up to his friends,
which is harder than standing up to someone who's not your friend, I think.
But I don't remember him standing up against other people like he did in book 5. I felt like he could stand up to his friends, even though it was scary in one aspect, but he knew them. And standing up against complete strangers that he's afraid of, physically afraid of, I think, was a big step forward for him too. Because now he's showing I can be my own person. I have my own mind, and I'm going to. And I think Mooney helps him in it with book 4 with kind of pushing him to do stuff he wasn't supposed to be doing, which was actually Bart,
Bartimus.
Bartimus?
Bartimus Crouch.
Crouch.
Is that how you
Barty,
say that?
Barty Crouch?
Bartimus? Barty, yeah.
Barty Crouch. But...
That's not Mooney, though. That was kind of funny. You're like, Mooney did it in before. I'm like,
yeah.
Oh, you said Moody.
Moody.
I need a hearing aid.
Not Mooney, not him.
Yeah, I was like, that's book 3.
It's very
and then
close,
you started
isn't
describing
it?
other things, and I was like, what is happening?
Who the hell named these guys Moody and Mooney? Come on.
That was bad.
Yeah, Moody
bad
was who I
choice.
was saying. But
maybe they assumed
that's really
because
Bart.
it's like Mad Eye Moody, then you'd be like, it's a hyphenate, and they're not confusing. I'm like, okay, let's just make fun of someone's disability. Cool.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah, he's missing an eye. That's one eye Moody.
Oh my god. Okay, I think that one's gonna
special
be really...
parking Moody.
No, I'm throwing you out.
Okay,
you have to sleep outside tonight.
Okay, that's fair.
No, you don't, because you'll freeze to death. Okay.
I probably wouldn't.
It's pretty cold.
Yeah, but I'm pretty thick.
I know that you're a human furnace,
but I'm thick.
On that note, could you please give me your third prediction?
Okay, Cho Chang. Everybody's favorite Chang. Cho she didn't.
Oh, no.
No, sorry.
You might have to cut that out. It's fine.
That's not really me. That's not really anything racist, I don't think. Like, it said no, she didn't.
No,
it's
it just
Cho,
was that bad.
That's why it's got to stay. I'll talk to the editor.
Okay.
And my feeling with her is she's just going to disappear. Like, she's going to disappear as a spoiling, and that she was only there in the beginning as a love interest anyway. Like, when things go south in book 5 with Cho Chang, she's gone. She's like, well, I don't like Harry anymore, so I'm no longer part of the story, so I'm just going to stand over here. And I'll show up once in a while, I'm like, hi, Harry. And then walk away. And they're like, gosh, Harry, she's still mad at you, isn't she? Yeah, she's right pissed, she is. You know, and
she's going to piss in my cereal.
She's going to go stand over there and be pissed.
I literally can't do an accent. It's true. What I would like you to do in preparation on this prediction is just keep a little tally sheet for how many times she appears in book 6.
Do I need a tally sheet or do I have a sticky note?
Whatever you can keep track of.
Is it more like one of those thin half-inch sticky notes, and I can keep track of it on that because she's going to be there like once?
I'm not telling you, but I'm not going to give this away.
I'm curious. I'm going to pick it carefully.
Okay.
I'm going to pick the right piece of paper that's so small and see if I can fill it.
One of those little tiny flags.
One of those little tiny flags.
3/4 of it is clear, and then there's just like color, and you just are only going to write in the color.
I will fill most of it with the word "cho," and then a little mark, little dash, just so it looks important. It looks like it was a big deal. I feel like she's going to be like ones.
I look forward to seeing your tally.
I feel like even in the film, I don't really remember her like very much at all. Like, she went to the dance with Harry, but they didn't really have a relationship.
She didn't go to the dance with Harry.
Oh, she didn't go to the dance with Harry?
No, Harry wanted to go to the dance with her, and she went with Cedric.
After Cedric died, though, wasn't there a dance?
There was another dance.
There wasn't another dance in book 5? Okay.
Oh, you're thinking of when they went to the tea shop.
Okay.
And then they fought. Because
he was going to go.
I need to go
catch up with Hermione.
But you can come if you want. Boys are so stupid.
You think about it, he was dealing with so many things. He was literally just being blunt. He was literally just being honest. It's like, hey, I have to go catch up with Hermione, but you can come if you want. And she's like, oh, I don't think so. I don't want to be hanging around with your other girlfriend. And I remember he was so baffled by that. Like, what? What? Like, he was so lost. And then Hermione went, "Cho, she didn't."
Unacceptable.
I feel like that should be on a damn mug. Cho, she didn't show up in any of the other books.
We are not going to take like one of the most racist names in the Harry Potter series and turn it into a sassy slogan that's like stealing from ABA. And so then we're like cultural appropriating and being racist at the same time. We're not going to do it. I will fire myself.
Again, the address, if you'd like to send me a mug with that phrase on it, is fun.
I was like, if you freaking say our address right now, you really do have to sleep outside. We don't even have a P.O. box.
You can email me and tell me where to send it.
All right. If someone sends you just like a picture of a mug, that's okay.
No, I want a mug.
No.
I want it like to look like Michael's mug from The Office,
so
the best boss, and just be.
No.
I would drink it on camera anytime I was doing a TikTok. I would just drink from it.
And no one would get it because we have half a listener. 90% of our downloads are me.
People would start asking, where is that from?
Where'd that come from?
I go, it's episode such and such from season 2 of the Dusty Cauldron podcast. Check it out.
And then we'd be known for racism and a cultural appropriation.
Nope, I'd be like, I said it. The podcast person didn't have anything to do with it, and I'm also the editor, so I kept
fought
it in.
With me on air.
I promised her I'd cut it out, and then I left it in.
And then I forgot. So you have your 3 predictions.
Don't send me that mug.
Okay, he wants to stay married.
Yeah.
We have your 3 predictions.
Yes.
We're going to send you off, and we'll be back in 18 hours.
In 18 hours, stretched out over a couple months.
Probably.
But I am going to, we're getting to the end now.
Yeah.
So I'm going to try to push through these last 2, because then I will have actually finally, at the tender age, the ever so young age of 47, finished the Harry Potter series.
Dun, dun, dun. A truly belated
and
binge.
I
Shout
don't think
out to Zach.
I don't think I want to read Fantastic Beasts.
I will not do it. If there are books, they can just burn.
I barely like the movies. So.
Well, and the franchise has been canceled.
Oh, they're not doing the 4th one?
Maybe that's a rumor.
No,
I swear I saw it on
Warner
MuggleNet,
Brothers,
though, and everything on MuggleNet is gospel.
Warner Brothers was cutting things left and right.
Well, I remember I think I even said this in the episode when we had the girls from the Hufflepuff podcast. They wrote that movie to try to tie up loose ends because they read the writing on the wall that they weren't going to get that the series was supposed to be 5 movies. They knew they weren't going to get 5. So that one crammed 3 movies into one movie, and that's why it's such a shit show.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. They tried to tie
it did
up
feel
as tightly
really
as
confusing
they could.
and rushed. I thought the first one was actually fairly entertaining.
Yeah, and if
Second
you
one was
appreciate
okay.
it as like a standalone, like, because it's within the universe, but trying to sell it as a Harry Potter movie is just stupid.
The first one is almost a standalone. I mean, with the way they leave it off, it almost, except for Ezra Miller's character, it almost feels like it could have been a standalone film.
I mean, where were they going to go to do another movie? Because Ezra's character didn't actually die yet. Like, what were they going to do? Because he can't work with anybody anymore.
So let me do this. Let me ask you 3 predictions.
Okay.
Where you think the Harry Potter universe is going to go from here. Is it done? Is the wheels going to roll off and it's going to, be that thing that people get and find in these wonderful gems? Or do you think there's going to be a reboot? I think Warner Brothers was talking about a spin-off show that spun off the Harry Potter movies that takes place.
Are they going to try to do the kids or something?
I don't think so. I think they're focusing on other characters and different people that we don't know yet.
If they prequeled and did the Marauder era, I think we could see a resurgence.
Yeah.
I think if they try to do Next Generation, it will flop. If they try to do anything in the Fantastic Beasts timeline, it will flop.
Yeah.
I think there's enough of the diehard fans that have wanted prequel movies for years that one would be successful, as long as they didn't totally mess it up. From like a book perspective, we're slowly rolling into the sunset here. Like, this is like how people in my generation have also lovingly made fun of people in your generation being obsessed with Star Wars. Now, the next generation is making fun of us for being obsessed with Harry Potter because it's old. We love it. That's why we're here still talking about the podcast. I am not throwing shade at any Harry Potter fan in the world. Harry Potter's heyday is over.
Yeah, well, I get made fun of Firefly, so.
True.
I know there's people on.
Just because you like westerns.
Anybody listening to this is like, what's their names?
What's their name?
Who are they? We will find them. But
I swear on my pretty body.
How many years is that with Harry? 20?
It's been more than 20 now.
Is it more than 20?
Yeah,
it started in 90.
Because the 20-year thing, the
91?
celebration, 1998.
1998?
I think that's where the I Open with the Clothes thing came from. The first book was published when we have
so it's like
timeline placed
24, almost 25 years.
It's been a long time.
And Star Wars managed to stick around because they were able to keep going back and exploring the universe.
Yeah.
What if there's a possibility that they actually go back post-Harry, post-cursed crap, and...
See, this is, like, if they went really far into the future, maybe. If they try to do anything that falls in the Cursed Child era, it will die because so many people would like to burn Cursed Child.
Oh, do you...
There are people that like
How many... do you think the number of people who want to burn Cursed Child versus the number of people that want to see it in a film is... Which one's greater?
Want to burn.
Want to burn?
Like, Juliana, who's a huge, huge fan of Cursed Child, she's rare.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Like, I would love to see ticket sales stats. You can almost guarantee 99% of ticket sales stats are one time. So what you see with a lot of shows that tour for a long time is repeat watches. People love it so much they want to go back.
Interesting.
I would argue less than 1% of ticket sales for Cursed Child is someone going to see it for a second time.
Interesting. Yeah, I was kind of curious. It kind of didn't really tie in, but I kind of wanted to get... It just spurned in me while we were just wrapping this up. And I was like, you know what?
You never have to do predictions.
I want to hear what you say about this.
And I with no prep. Okay, here's a prediction.
Really, what I feel like has been the strongest supporter of the Harry Potter universe going as long as they did, it's probably been the fan fiction community. I mean, they really kept churning out different stories, different ideas. I mean, we know the universe who produced it obviously pays attention to it in some form. And I kind of hope that maybe we'll see some resurgence going forward that maybe deals with AU or some kind of thing that the fan writers are creating.
Like existing within the world but not touching any of the characters that we've seen.
Squid and toast. And on that note...
We'll be back in 18 hours.
Are you a business owner looking to generate revenue promoting your products and the products of others? The Tableau Taboola might be the right product for you. This enchanted blackboard is easy to use, no matter your casting skill level. The built-in runes are programmed to accept verbal and written advertisement descriptions and quickly translate those into interactive, handwritten graphics for all of your customers and neighbors. The Tableau Tabula comes with 27 different handwriting and drawing samples pre-spelled, and you can add additional styles on your own with one simple spell. Send us an owl today to customize your own magical blackboard.
We're back. Ridgeback has just finished reading The Half-Blood Prince, and so we are going to talk about the predictions he made and whether or not he feels that they were accurate. So why don't we just jump right in with the first one? Your prediction was that the author was going to continue to avoid the trauma that the characters are suffering.
Yeah, I was unsure if that was going to come true or not. But, all you have to do is watch the way the author deals with sensitive subjects in the real world and realize she was going to avoid this too and just ignore it like it wasn't there. Yeah, no, she didn't deal with their trauma at all. It seemed more like about getting them point A to point B, the story, less than taking moments to dig into what they were going through. And I'm actually torn about if that was a necessity or not. Because for me, from a writing standpoint, I think it's a great opportunity to explore these characters. Obviously, the mystery, the adventure, we're building, we're getting there. But I think if you just take that moment to dig into what they're actually going to, let them have those moments of what they're dealing with, I think it makes for a better read. But even though I'm disappointed that it's not there, and my prediction was correct, the book still reads really well. I mean, the story makes sense. The story flows really good. It's just, I feel like opportunities were missed that could have really pushed it to be an even amazing book. And I feel like that's, as we've gotten into more adult content, that's an opportunity that just continues to be missed. So.
Yeah, I go back and forth on this one because I do agree that your assessment is correct, that we shy away from really truly looking at anyone's trauma. But things that sort of make that okay for me would be we're ramping up the war. And so everything's starting to move at a faster and faster pace as we move through books 5, 6, and 7. And so it feels true to life to not have time to stop and look at the trauma. Because if you think about as like countries devolve into war, you don't get to stop and say, well, wait, I was really hurt by when that building was blown up, right? So like, as much as I don't respect the author, I do sort of understand that choice. And then I do think we see some level of like cause and effect coming from the trauma. And so like, there does seem to be an awareness of like, okay, this person would be feeling this level of trauma because they just saw this person die, that sort of thing. I think we see that most peculiarly in Harry and how his interactions change and then how he acts out on his trauma, which then results in creating a pretty significant trauma for Draco. So I think we get a better glimpse of pieces of trauma in this book than we've gotten in any other book, because even though in book 5 ultimately Harry is demonstrating some really strong PTSD behaviors, it is never coded that way. Like she colors it in a way that he sees it and the way that the people around him see it as just like a teenager being a brat, and so it's very, very much shied away from the trauma. Whereas I feel like we look a little bit more like out of the corner of the eye in this book at the trauma, but I don't think throughout the series we ever just look it straight in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but the epilogue in particular really just like is a slap in the face of the inability to look at trauma for what it is, because it's just like everyone's been through a terrible war, but I'm just going to put a pretty little bow on top of it.
And that just seems to come from a very traditionalist way of thinking of dealing with trauma. It was the old adage was, pull yourself up by your bootstraps and put on your big boy pants, and we don't deal with the emotion. Who is it? You bottle it up inside really tight until you die.
Catholics? Oh, sorry.
Irish.
I can say that because I'm Catholic. Yeah, I think that she's definitely one, a part of that generation. And then 2, I think that she believes she's a great example of pull yourself up by the bootstraps because she got lucky with a book series that really took off. I think if she had to slug it out and work her way out of the position that she was in before the book series in a real job, her perspective on the world and how people deal with trauma and being stuck would be very different. I don't think she understands how much this is a lightning strike and does not happen for most people.
Yeah. I have an interesting question about that can wait until we get through the end of this, maybe. Okay. I don't know. Maybe that would be better. Just to keep us getting too off track, or maybe better to grab it now. It's not related, but it is because of the way the author is. Do you think this series is going to age well?
It's already not aging well, so I would say no. Okay. It's really interesting, actually, to see the discourse happening of, like, it's been announced that HBO Max, I think they're just calling it Max now, is going to have the Harry Potter series as a TV show, and they're going to do each book. So 7 seasons, 7 books, and you can see, like, a quick division of the fan group. I tend to fall on the side that's excited because there's so many things that we didn't get in the movies that I think we can get with a TV show. But you have the older generation of fans that's angry that they're going to reset what they see as the world of Harry Potter, and would have rather seen like a Marauders show or a Founders Era show or something that's in the future but ignores Cursed Child. There's probably a fair few that would want to see Cursed Child, but I think largely people are like, don't give us that, we're not interested. And then you see some of the younger fans are like, yeah, let's see Harry Potter done right. Like, cast it with people that are relevant to me. Tell some of those things that if I was a book reader, I know exist and I haven't seen in the movies and I really want to see, like Peeves the Poltergeist, that sort of thing. But even within that, there's talk of like, oh, well, J.K. Rowling's going to be an executive producer on the show, so I'm probably not going to watch it. And if enough people are like that, we won't get more than one season, right? Because the season won't do well and they'll be like, this isn't a good investment of our money. And then there's debate of like, do we unpack these things that we're already finding problematic, like the issue with how goblins are handled in the book or how house elves are handled in the book? Do we need to have that really pounded into us with like a 7 seasons worth of bigotry? So I think it's a toss-up right now on if the show will do well. And I think that is a testament to how the series is already struggling to age effectively.
Well, that's a good answer. All right.
Okay, so let's talk about your second prediction. You said that Neville will become a bigger fixture of the group because Harry learns of their connection.
It's so frustrating because I really like Neville, but I don't even remember. I think I only remember him at one point being like face down in something, and that was it. And I don't remember seeing or hearing much of him at all. And it's such I don't know. I feel like Neville is such an interesting character to me because like he's like Harry. He's been through a lot, and I'm like, man, it's just like it feels like he should have really grew to be a bigger part of the group and be out there more. And the only thing I remember he was face down somewhere, and I can't remember what part it was. I just remember he was face down and they rolled him over and there he was. Like, oh, there's Neville. And a bunch of people were unconscious, I think. I can't remember if that was...
I mean, it would have to be the battle at the school. I can't think of another time that there would be a bunch of unconscious people.
Maybe it was a dream or something, but I only remember Neville being mentioned like one time and that was it. And I was like, well, okay. Sorry, Neville. Maybe next book.
Yeah.
Maybe the end book, you'll get your chance.
So something that I find really interesting in a comparison of the book and the movies is that the visual nature of the glow up for Neville is largely featured in the movies. And part of that is literally because the actor blossomed over time.
Good Lord.
Yeah. But the glow up for Neville in the books is off screen, like to use a screen term. It is going to happen in book 7, spoiler alert, while the trio is not there. And
Yeah.
so there's something to be said about how that sort of celebrity status of Harry Potter may have actually been limiting to Neville. And I'm not putting that on Harry. I'm more putting that on Neville. And so we start to see, I think, little inklings of change in this book, but they're so subtle you wouldn't pick up on them as like Neville starting to glow up. You would just pick up on them as like, oh, he's being less like ridiculous. And it's, I believe, because in the last book his wand was broken, and if you remember, he was using his father's wand the whole time. His grandmother would not buy him a wand that was fit for him, and she was forced to do that after his wand was broken. So in this book, we stop seeing such a haphazard Neville because he finally actually has a wand that works for him. And then in 7 is when he starts to hit his stride.
It's just like everybody handicapped him from the beginning. You know, there's a big trend going where they take a character in a book who's not, to get the other side of the story. And I would really like to see an author out there take that with Neville and just, we're following his track instead of following Harry's track. You know, we keep hearing about Harry's track in the background, but we see Neville going through what Neville's going through. Could be a very interesting series of books.
Yeah, I bet there's a fan fiction of it out there.
Probably.
We could go hunting and see if we can find it. Or if you're listening and you want to comment on the Instagram post related to this episode when it drops and you know what it is, you can tell us.
Yeah, do it.
But I bet it exists. Like, I just recently, because I've been through my FYP getting like a resurgence of like Hunger Games stuff going on.
Right.
And so because of that, I just recently discovered that there is a fan fiction online that is the entire Hunger Games story, but from Peeta's perspective. And I'm like, I'm probably going to read that. That sounds interesting, because I would love to know what's going on in his mind when like Katniss is like, I don't even know if I love you or if I love Gale or if I love anyone, because trauma again. Yeah. There's a series that actually explores trauma. I've derailed. Why are we talking about Hunger Games? Oh, because I suspect that there's probably a fan fiction of like Harry Potter from Neville's perspective. I know I've certainly read a couple that were Neville focused. I've read one. It's wildly inappropriate, but it was about like Neville and Hermione. I think it's called Devil's Snare. It was really good. Like, and I feel like it really played into like the concept of where Neville came into his own at like the end part of the war and then beyond.
I wonder if we'll see I mean, obviously we're seeing it with fan fiction writers, but I wonder if we'll start seeing it with authors where they put out a story that's successful and they think, okay, well, now I'm going to write it from the other side. And didn't what's her name?
Stephanie Meyer did, and I think that's why we won't see it happen. Yeah, because she did a shit job. But here's the thing: she did a shit job because her characters are shit. And I'm saying this as a person who enjoyed the Twilight series. You read the Twilight series from Bella's perspective, and she is a little bit of a joke mentally, but whatever. You have like a perspective. She makes sense as a teenager, all of that, and then like we all got excited because she's like, I'm going to release Midnight Sun, and it's from Edward's perspective. And what little joy you had for the series completely killed by reading Edward's perspective. He is a giant piece of shit. He infantilizes her, which is like, it's already pretty messed up that he's essentially 109 years old and interested in this 17-year-old.
Sure.
It's worse when you can hear his inner dialogue. So much worse. Yeah. Like, and then he's just like so annoying. And so like for people who, because they're like the fandom for Twilight's very split, right? There's like Team Edward, Team Jacob. For a lot of people that were Team Edward, they read Midnight Sun and they were like, I guess I'm done with Twilight because I can't bring myself to be Team Jacob, but I'm certainly not Team Edward anymore. And so I think that hurt the like future because it was such a like widely spread and everyone knows about it and knows that it was such a terrible book. It hurt the future of other authors wanting to pursue that. I think publishers would shy away from wanting to print the book.
Seems like you'd shift more to being Team Deer. The deer that just gets chased down and killed in the beginning. And that's it. That's who you are now. Team Deer.
After having read the series and read the Midnight Sun, you know what? I'm Team Charlie. Like,
yeah.
These guys are all stupid. Get away from my daughter.
What the hell are you kids doing out here? literally walking around the whole book. What the hell are you kids doing out here?
Also, you lose all respect for Carlisle once you've read Midnight Sun. And I was like, ooh, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah,
Turns out
sad.
Carlisle's also a piece of shit.
I wonder, like, if that's really how she'd framed her characters, or if maybe it was just, I don't know. That just seems like such a disservice. If the book was really bad, and it seems like, ooh,
you know how they say
missed opportunity. It feels like
you can't talk yourself into sounding stupid.
She did.
Like, yeah. So you can look stupid by not speaking, but she took something that maybe we would argue, like some people would be like, oh no, it's problematic, I'm not a fan. But other people are like, no, I'm fine with it. If she'd left it there, she could have gotten away with, maybe some of these things were unintentional. Maybe she's not like kind of gross as a person. And then she released Midnight Sun, and she basically stood on top of a mountain and screamed, I am disgusting. I'm so dumb. I hate women. Like, so she just confirmed, like, if she had not released it, she could have sort of gotten away with the illusion that maybe she's a good storyteller. Nope, she had to confirm for everybody that she's not.
Maybe she wasn't actually screaming it from the mountain. Maybe she had it written on these 2 big tablets, and when she came down, she tripped because a deer got in her way, and they broke, and she put them together backwards, and then went, I have it, it's done. And everyone went, what's wrong with you? And she's like rereading it. Oh crap! I should have saved it on a Mac.
Fair. The one thing I will give from all of that is, I give J.K. Rowling a lot of crap. Of crap. Because I think there's a lot of things that she did that were problematic. But if you put her on a scale or a spectrum to compare her to Stephenie Meyer, she's light years ahead, right? Like, we're not going to get rid of the fact that Stephenie Meyer, Stephenie Meyer also is a bigot. Look at how she treats the Quileutes, but we're not going to get away from the fact that J.K. Rowling is a bigot. It's written into her as a person. It's written into her work because that's what she believes.
It's on her Twitter feed too, if you look.
God, yeah. She's doubled down on it by literally releasing like anti-trans books at this point.
Yeah.
But she still is better than Stephenie Meyer at like concealing it in her work. At least it's not concealed, but on a spectrum to Stephenie Meyer, it's more concealed.
Yeah
Interesting. So I don't know if we'll ever see more books that are like, it's from their perspective.
It'll probably be more fan fiction stuff, and they seem to try to do service rather than just I think the closest we'll get is like, you sometimes have authors that do, instead of like a universal perspective, they'll have like a sort of a rotating first person perspective throughout the series. I think we might see that happen to sort of give you the feel of like, well, this is what it felt like from PETA's perspective, for example. That could be
but
cool.
I don't think we'll see like the same story but in a different book from another perspective. Okay, and so the last prediction that you had made for the book was that Cho Chang will disappear, supporting your thought that her character is only there as a love interest for Harry and nothing more.
Couldn't have been more right. Couldn't have been more correct. I think I heard her name mentioned once, and it was in conjunction with someone else.
Yeah.
And that was it. And I was like, wow, she's so gone. She's just like out.
Yeah.
Like, she just got shown the exit, just like, well, you're done. And they just took her out the side door, and that was it. She just came and waved, hi, I'm in Act 3. And then that was it. She was out the door, and that was done. I was not surprised at all, because I just had this feeling that was what was going to happen, because, I mean, watching the movies, I don't remember them focusing on her that much after her little bit of screen time. And in the book, it was like even less. It was just like, what, she was gone.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, that was kind of, and then Ginny comes in, not right away, but Harry's feelings come in right away. And it was just like, that's what she was just gone. Like, I think what was her name? Was it Lavender?
Yeah.
Harry, was that with Ron was Lavender? Yeah, she was around for quite a while. So I think she's going to disappear probably in book 7. She won't be there at all.
You definitely see her somewhere in book 7.
Oh, okay.
But it'll be interesting to talk about Lavender Brown's fate. Here is my thought on that. Yes, you're 100% right. Your prediction is correct. It makes sense. They're teenagers. You are not going to be interested in hanging out with someone that you've broken up with. Add on to the fact that she is tangentially connected to the whole Marietta Edgecombe getting the Dumbledore's army shut down.
Right.
So, like, not only have you broken up, but she's best friends with the enemy. And then she's not even in the same house. So, like, you would try to get some distance from Lavender post-breakup with Ron, right?
Yeah, that makes sense.
But she still lives there. She's still Hermione's roommate. You're going to see her. She's in classes with you all the time. Gryffindor very rarely has classes with Ravenclaw. And then you're going out of your way not to see her. She's going to disappear. The DA is not meeting anymore. It makes sense. Like, it tracks logically for me for why this happened. It still feels callous because it's just we've thrown the character away. But I don't think the character ever had any value for J.K. Rowling because she always intended for Harry to end up with Ginny.
You actually make a great point. And it's something that just kind of shows my age a little bit because I was like, wow, when you were saying that, I was like, yeah, I guess it's been a long time since I've been a teenager. And yeah, that is exactly what happens. And you're right, she's not in the same house. So why would she keep popping up, at all? So yeah, I guess that is actually a really fair point. I mean, it was just probably the natural order of what was going to happen. Mm-hmm. Maybe that was my teenage side saying, dude, they're not going to hang out with her. And I was like, yeah. It's like, geez, look, she just got pushed right out the door. It's like, well, yeah.
That's how it works sometimes.
That's what happens in high school.
Yeah.
It's like when you're done with somebody, just they're banished to like the other side of the hallway. They don't even cross on the same floor anymore. So yeah, I guess I forgot about that part of being a teenager, like how they just disappear.
Well, one, we haven't been teens for a while, and then two, we have not dated for a while, right?
That's true.
Like, we've been married
for
over a decade.
Right? Is that right?
Yeah. Tell me, you haven't been dating, correct?
The way it came off is like, right? Like, yeah, I'm pretty sure. Yeah. Let me check my phone.
I mean, we've dated each other.
Yeah, I mean.
Certainly not in a situation where you have to think about how you would interact with someone that you broke up with.
Yeah, yeah.
Because, I mean, I feel like it would be worse over time, right? Like, we break up, I never want to see you again. Like,
and yeah, if it was
I'm moving to China.
And it was not a good breakup.
No, they had a messy breakup.
They had a messy breakup, so there would be battle lines drawn, and we don't talk to that person, and they're going to stay over.
We don't talk about Cho-Chang.
On their side of the dining hall, and yeah. We don't talk about Cho-Chang. So yeah, the prediction was right, and it's actually a little refreshing to see that it was probably going to happen because of the natural order of things when you're a self-centered high schooler. So
yeah. And I do feel like in this book, Harry Potter is very egocentric. And it's different than in the previous book where I feel like it's super, super trauma-driven. It's probably still trauma-driven in this book, but he's just very self-obsessed and then a little bit Draco-obsessed. Yeah. And so I think there's a lot that went on that we probably don't know of because the narrator is Harry and he's so egocentric.
Yeah. Very Draco-obsessed.
Yeah, like this book is why there are so many fan fictions where Draco and Harry are a couple because they're like, see, look how obsessed he was. It's love. I'm like, that's toxic love.
That's not love. That's a restraining order.
Yeah. Well, so overall, what were your thoughts overall of the book?
I listened to this one on Audible, and it took me a real long time to get into it. I'm like, I don't know what it was at the beginning. I just kept putting it down, and then finally kind of got about just past halfway through. And then I started listening to it in bigger chunks. Like, it started to move a little bit. Maybe it was just a slow starter. I don't know. About halfway through, it started really going for me. It was kind of like Two Towers. Or not Two Towers. Yeah, it was kind of like Two Towers, where the beginning was slow, and then it really picked. And then I was on board with them. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. What's going to happen next?
Yeah.
So.
Fair. I'm going to ask a question, and we can cut this out if you don't like the question.
Go ahead.
Do you think that is fully a comment on the book, or do you think that maybe is also a comment on like your ADHD and the level of control that you have on it?
Definitely. It's been I would definitely put it on the ADHD almost fully. because it has been hard to read any books lately for me. And I'm medicated now. So we'll see if that changes. But no, I would say that's also a fair observation that it's definitely been a problem.
Yeah. I feel like it would be hard to focus in general, and then adding like reading takes such like dialed in focus.
Yeah.
That I think it would slow me down.
Well, what's interesting is when did I start picking it back up and really
after you got on
I got on my medication. And then all of a sudden I was like, all right, I'm just gonna listen to it, and I listened to it for like a few hours.
Yeah, which is you haven't been able to do.
I have not been able to do that at all. And I was just like, I'll listen, like related. I just got back from Wenatchee yesterday, and there's a 3-hour trip both ways. The 3-hour trip there, I listened to an audiobook the whole way.
Nice.
And it was the George Romero.
The zombie one?
The zombie one,
Nice.
The most recent one. And I actually listened to it the whole way there, which has been, again, a problem.
Yeah.
And I actually listened to it most of the way back until I finally had to flip the music because I was getting tired.
Fair. And you get bonus points for, like, because of what the subject matter of the book is. And because I remember at one point you were listening to that book before, and we were driving somewhere, and I was listening to it too. And it was during the pandemic, and I was getting stressed out because of what was going on in the book. And, like, you were headed there for, like, a medical situation. So, like, you get points, like, you stuck with it, headed to a medical thing. Like, yeah, good job.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was in it the whole way until I pulled into the parking lot, I think. Like,
nice.
So I've seen a subtle shift. So I'm hoping, because there's a lot of books I want to read, a lot of things I need to read. And I'm hoping it'll pay off. But thanks for bringing that up.
Yeah.
I hadn't shared that yet, so that was really cool.
Well, and definitely never required.
No, I was
actually I think
like,
it is an interesting component of it.
Yeah,
so.
I was really comfortable talking about it, so it was totally fine.
Cool.
We won't cut that out.
Well, thanks for tuning in, Muggles. If you're jonesing for more witchy goodness between episodes, you can check us out on Instagram at Dusty Cauldron Podcast, or email us at dustycauldronpodcast@gmail.com, or you can check out our website, dustycauldronpodcast.com. You can subscribe to this podcast wherever you're listening right now if you want to hear more. And remember, even though Cho Chang disappears during book 6, is probably actually a really logical choice and doesn't totally detract from the plot. We definitely recommend you go read that book. And don't forget to stir whatever you've got brewing in your cauldron right now. Bye.
Bye.